Good morning, and welcome to Mental Odyssey. I am Sarah. I am joined here by my wonderful fiancé, Tomas.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, welcome you to the show. So today, the reason that we are here is because we've been talking about wedding planning as our wedding is swiftly approaching on March 23rd of this year. How many days is that? That's like, we're like
29.
Yeah, it's coming up fast.
Yeah.
Today is Valentine's Day.
No,
Happy
it's
Valentine's Day.
It's not 29. It's 39. It's the
39
14th.
days.
Yeah, 39 days.
It's coming up fast. So we together were a little bit limited on how many people we have here to help right now, as family lives farther away from me and everyone's busy, has their own things going on. So me and Tomas have been planning basically all of the wedding up until recently. Me mainly. But the more that I have incorporated you into the wedding, I would say we've come across a few differences in planning styles and opportunities for effective communication along the way. And we were talking about this on the couch, and Tom said, "Hey, let's go sit on the podcast and talk about this." So
go record our argument here.
Yep. So here we are. What we were talking about before is that we've been trying to get the groomsmen to get their clothes for the wedding, and we didn't really decide what we were going to do till recently because we were waiting for Tom to make a decision about his clothes so that we knew what to go with it.
Yes, but also remember we were going to do the mint green suit until almost everybody's sizes were not available.
Yeah, so we had to like go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
And I originally sent a suit from Amazon that's like a 3-piece suit for like $100, which I was like, okay, if it's decent quality, that's pretty affordable for everybody who's there. Like, it's still $100, but it's not $300 like a suit would be.
Yeah.
And so, kind of last minute, in my opinion, how I felt was like kind of last minute. He just like rushed off to the store with his best man.
You know, that's not how it happened at all.
That's how it happened. I'm telling the story. You can say how it happened.
All right.
I'm setting my scene.
It's the wrong scene.
Oh my God. There's 3 sides to every story. Okay, we'll hear yours next.
Okay.
No one knows the truth.
I know the truth.
Oh my God. Anyways, what I felt was they just kind of abruptly went to Macy's to just try on some clothes. And then shortly after getting to the store, I got a call from him just being like, "Hey, so we're going to buy it here. We're going to put everything on Dylan's mom's credit card and just fucking send it, and people are going to pay us back along the way." And like, that stressed me right out. It stressed me right out. And I felt like I was not being heard in the conversation because there was a third party involved who was just like encouraging the send it vibes. And I felt like I was being shut out of that conversation and that my opinion was not being taken into consideration about what clothes to get, what set to get, how expensive it should be for everybody. Because I know that money's tight for a lot of people, and I don't want our wedding to be a financial burden on anybody. So that's my side of the story and my perspective about how we got here. How about you, dearie? Set the scene.
So, couple of things. First of all, it was not a last minute decision. We made the decision 3 days beforehand after I created a group chat with all of our groomsmen. I sent that mint green suit and said, let me know ASAP if your size is not available. And within 2 days of that, of creating the group chat, we had a lot of people. Wyatt, his size wasn't on there. Callan's size wasn't on there. Sam's size wasn't on there. And I don't even think we needed to hear from Joey. And Dylan's size wasn't on there. So, like, there were just too many. So, after 2 days of creating this groomsmen group chat and the sizes not being available, Dylan and I came up with a plan that in 3 days' time, we're just going to go to Macy's, see what they have, and if we like it, get sizes from everybody, right? So we get there with that intention. And I should also preface that Dylan and I have a pretty similar communication style that's very aggressive and I wouldn't say spur of the moment. I put a little bit more thought into it. Not much, a little bit more thought than just spur of the moment. But we get there, and there's a sign on the wall next to where we're going. First of all, we only found one. It was from Calvin Klein, one full suit, and the full suit total would have been like $400 or $500 for everybody. And we're like, fuck no, that's not going to happen. So we keep browsing a little bit. We come to this section, and on the wall in this section it says, buy 2, get 20% off, buy 3, get 30%, buy 4, get 40%. I don't know if it applied to 5 items or 6 or whatever, but it didn't matter. As we're looking at the price of things, the pants were $100, the vests were $90, the blazers were $200. So 30% being saved on, what is that, $390? That's still a shitload of money for people, especially my brothers who are young and they don't have a lot of money to their name. And so what we came up with, we brought it all to the counter. Because if you apply that logic of buy 4, get 40% off, we had to order, we went to the counter to see what it would cost to order all 3 of those items times 5, because we have 5 groomsmen, 4 groomsmen and a best man. So we'd need 5 sets. So we got a cost of what it would be to get all 3 of those items for everybody times 5, a cost of what it would be to do the pants and the vests times 5. Which is 10 items, and so you would effectively get 40% off 4 items twice, and then 20% off the last 2 items, which would save everybody a lot of money. And then, well, we were led to believe by the girl at the counter that we could save 30% off by using a JCPenney card, which his mom had. Come to find out, it's 25% and only if you apply for one, which was not worth it. Now, this is all going on while Dylan and I are there, and you haven't been a part of this conversation yet. And so we're at the counter, we're dealing with this lady, and we get an estimate of cost of what it would be, and with all of the discounts for just doing pants and vests, the cost per item for everybody would have been around $77 instead of the $390 with the blazer and everything like that. And so, in my mind, what's going on is like, dude, Sarah's going to be fucking excited. Like, the fact that we kept cost under $100. We found something that's easy for everyone to get. It's physical. It's here for us to get exact measurements. And then we just order it online because they didn't have the color. So then I call you. And that is not what happened at all. And I feel like right away, when I hop on the phone, I'm like, here's what's going on. So, I mean, you know my communication style. I like to communicate the exact details of everything that's in front of me right now and lay it all on the table so you have all the information. I didn't even get halfway through before you're like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm like, what don't you understand? It's clear. It's right there. Here's the details. 2 for 20% off, 3 for 30%, 4 for 40%. We've already done all this. Now, I think another thing to say is that when I'm in go mode, I do not take criticism well. And then you factor in Dylan, who effectively in that moment was a hype man, because he's pretty much the same way. He's very detail oriented and he likes everything to be laid out, and so he can see the plan. So now I'm pissed because you're not understanding me. I've already said it. I then have to repeat myself 2 more times to try and get you to understand what's going on, and that we've already done the legwork. Here's where I actually got pissed, though, is when I did not feel like you were listening to the whole problem. Like, you tell me constantly, listen to the whole problem, then come up with a solution. And you cut me off halfway through. And so now I'm pissed. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You are doing the exact same thing that you tell me to do. And if you would just let me explain what's going on, we would have gotten to the part where I said, we've already done this at the checkout counter. We took up like 10 minutes of that bitch's time. Like, it's done with. Just listen. And I didn't feel like you were listening very well. And which led to further lack of communication, lack of connection between the two of us in this conversation. And it just spiraled out of control before you ended up hanging up. And you weren't in a good place. And I'm like, all right, fuck it. We're just going to do it because she's scrambled. She doesn't know what to do. We know what to do. We're just going to handle it. Right? So that's where that went.
Yeah. I feel like your brain being a logical brain, right? And like coming to me directly with like throwing all of the numbers around, like as you were just explaining it again, I like was overwhelmed because it's like, to me, if I was there and I saw the signs and I was like doing the math with you, it would have gone over a lot better, rather than like you called me, I'm like scrolling on my phone or like figuring out some other wedding detail while you're gone, and you just like interrupt my thought process and start throwing fucking numbers at me that make no sense to me, because you know how I am. You know this about me, that I have to see numbers written down somewhere, otherwise they're just like a big old jumble in my fucking head. Like, if you want to explain a math problem to me, show it to me. Like, and so if you like, in retrospect, with hindsight, if you would have called and been like, hey, we figured out a way to make it so that every groomsman only has to pay $79 if we just get vests and pants. And I would have been like, well, that doesn't sound too bad. It's there, it's in person. Like, I'm on board with the whole like buying it now and knowing the quality of it, seeing it in person. Like, you know, I don't like online shopping. Yeah. Online shopping is not for me. So if it's like $79, which is less than the whole suit, and I'm not like sold on the whole suit idea, like, it would have been like, okay, he did his due diligence. Like, it's $79. You know, it's not crazy, but instead you you started out with, hey, it's $400 for a fucking suit. And then you started adding on the fucking discounts, which I can't actually see with my own eyes. And like, I'm just like stuck at the $400. And I was like, there was a 3-piece suit on Amazon for fucking $99. And you come back to me being like, hey, we found a better deal at Macy's for $400 fucking dollars. Like, okay. I was stuck there. Like, it took me a minute to catch up. And you know that when you come to me with money stuff, I am already going to be a little bit frazzled. Like, yeah. You know that that's going to happen, because a lot of the times that you come to me with money stuff, it's like we have to figure out how to afford it. Or I receive it and process it as we have to figure out how to afford it. So I get into that like stressful, like,
I appreciate the clarification,
maneuvering money mindset. Yeah.
Here's the thing, though, just take a pause, because it feels like we're going to move pretty fast past it. So backing up to the where you were like, if you would just say, hey, we found a way to cut everyone's cost down to $77 by doing pant and vest, right? Yeah. I've done that before once. It's not how I try to go about it right away, because, and what ended up happening the last time I did that is exactly what I would have done in the same situation, where well, how did you arrive there, right? I want all the details. Oh, the 2 for 20%, like all those details. So I understand what you're saying about the numbers not making sense. I just blasted you with all these random percentages, and you're like, what the fuck is happening? Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I just disagree with you in the fact that you would have just put down your guns right away, because then you're going to ask for the details anyway. But I think the benefit of saying, hey, we cut everyone's cost down to $77 first, is that now it breaks your mindset of the $400 suit, and then the details can make more sense.
Yes, absolutely.
I just think we should clarify that a little bit, rather than just say, oh, if you would have just said that, everything would have been fine.
Yeah.
No, we would have still had some explanation, but...
Yeah, but if you would have started there, I can promise you that my mind would have been more open to hearing whatever the fuck followed. Yeah, you start at $400 per groomsman, including your 18-year-old brothers, like...
That might have been part of the sales pitch.
That's a fucking problem.
I think that was the sales pitch. Of like, hey, this is where it started, and now we're arriving at $77.
Literally. If you would have just been like, we got these suits for $77. I'm like, oh, that's not too bad.
It wasn't.
How did that happen?
It was just pants and a
I
vest.
know, but like we got it down to that much. Okay, that's hype. And get this. It was originally going to cost $250 per person to just get the pants and the fucking vest. You know how sick that is? And I would have been like, dope.
So, dear listeners, I think the takeaway here is tone matters.
Tone definitely matters, and order.
I think yes, order of words and tone. And I think one of my mistakes was that I was in go mode. And numbers make a lot of sense to me, especially because I was looking at them, and I kind of forgot to take that into account, that you're just sitting on the couch vibing, and then I blast you with 1.5 million numbers.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
And the context that kind of helps build the energy that we arrived at when you came to me with that information is that, like, I had been dealing with the wedding basically all by myself up until like 4 days before that. So I'm still like reeling with all of the little tiny details that have to be done for the wedding. And like, I'm pretty sure that we had a conversation of me being like, hey, I would really like to delegate some of this stuff. If you can handle like the groomsmen stuff, that would be awesome. But then you came back to me and asked, okay, well, like, what should I send them? Right? And so I went and found that Amazon link, and I was like, just fucking send them this. This looks good enough. The reviews look good enough. There were like pictures in the reviews of people being satisfied with what they bought. So I was like, okay, just do this. And then you promptly looked at it and said, fuck that, we're going to Macy's. Like, at that point, if you were just going to say, fuck that, let's go to Macy's, then, like, why did you include me in, like, having to put brain power into figuring out that problem for you?
Well, I think context matters here. I didn't immediately look at that and say, yeah, this is garbage. Get it out of my face. I didn't do that.
That's how I saw it.
It was the sizing. So I did send it to the groomsmen. Every single one of them,
they're like, it's only like 1X, 2X, 3X.
Yeah, well, and since it was a Chinese suit, the sizing, when you go into the sizing chart, didn't make any fucking sense. Yeah. And I looked at it myself, and it made 0 sense. And it was just too much of a gamble for $100. That's when we came up with the Macy's idea. And I remember telling you this. It seems like you forgot that small detail, which is fine. I mean, I don't expect you to remember everything. But that's what ended up happening with that suit, is it was not immediate. It's that I looked at the size chart and it looked a little weird, but I was like, well, maybe one of the groomsmen can make some sense of this. So I just sent it to them, and it was equally confusing to them. And I was like, okay, well, I would rather not gamble with $100 like that. Let's just go to Macy's and get a size. And then Dylan and I agreed on 3 days after that.
Yeah, I definitely missed that first part.
Yeah. See, context matters.
It does.
Sometimes I think this is really important for your listeners to hear, especially the ones that should these listeners exist, they don't have as much practicality when it comes to arguments, is that context and tone matter. And if you don't have that, the whole argument that blew up could have just been a misunderstanding.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's a nice little segue into how this conversation got started. Is I got a worksheet from my therapist last week, of how to like, it says guidelines for relationship effectiveness, keeping the relationship. And they have a part on there about validation, and it says expanding the levels of validation. And number 3 says read minds. Be sensitive to what is not being said by the other person. And to me, what that means is like the whole backstory of, oh, the sizing, you know, like you said, you probably told me before. I just don't remember that conversation of like being like, okay, these suits are not going to work. Like, I don't remember that conversation of just being like, the link you sent me, it's like, it's a little bit too complicated and the sizing isn't going to work for everybody. Okay. So that's like the part that's not being said, that was said, that I didn't hear, that I didn't include in my story, right?
Yeah. I'm a little confused, though, about that last part. Like,
Why?
pay attention to what's not being said.
Yeah.
How the hell am I going to know what's not being said if it isn't said?
Well, it's because you can assume, like, for example, right? If I, okay,
We're
when
playing
you,
a dangerous game with assuming shit.
no, when you come to me with like, okay, the first thing that comes to mind is like an idea of how to go about weight loss or something, right?
Okay.
Like, let's just say like the times, I hope you're okay with me going here, but like the times that you've brought up like going on Phetermine, right?
Uh-huh.
I know, because I know you well enough, that there's like a backstory. Like, how did we get here? Like, what is not being said? Because you don't come to me talking about Phetermine when you're feeling good. Like, that is like a last-ditch effort in what I've experienced and when you bring it up.
How long has it been since we've been on this road?
What do you mean?
The Phetermine road. It's been a while.
It's been a while since you brought it up, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But when you have before, it's been like,
Yeah,
like you're feeling really upset about
Yeah.
your body and you want results fast, basically. Yeah. And so the context behind that, and like imagining like there's probably something more to this, and even not reading minds necessarily, but like questioning the mind in the sense of like, when you bring that to me, I come back to you and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Like, how did you get here? You know, what's the backstory to this? Yeah. What's the thought process that led you to this solution? Like, what's the problem to the solution that you're bringing me?
Yeah, well, you get to do that because you know me well enough.
Yes.
But my question is, for this thing that you were reading over there, the read between the lines thing, it's easy for us to read between each other's lines because we know each other so well. What's going to happen when you don't know the other person too well?
Well, so it does specify more. It says, pay attention to facial expressions, body language, what is happening, and what you know about the person already.
Okay. So not a phone conversation. This is an in-person conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, ideally, but I mean, you can pay attention to what you know about the person already over the phone, and you can pay attention to what is happening over the phone, just based on like let's say when you called me with Dylan, for example, I was thinking about the other factors that are in play right now. Like Dylan, like he is, like you and him are very dynamic together, where it literally is just Leroy Jenkins all the like it's that's
calculated Leroy Jenkins.
It's calculated Leroy Jenkins, but I knew that he was being a hype man in the situation and wanting to be helpful. And my concern was that like it's like out of my control, and I don't want people to just be like spending $400 because like that could be a reasonable thing in his perspective, right? And that's me like reading minds in that situation.
Yeah, well, it's hard enough to argue with me, let alone a second version of me.
Well, yeah, and like the thing is that when you are around him, you're a lot less receptive to my pushback. Because you're not going to sit there and argue on the phone with me while you're sitting with Dylan. It's not going to happen.
True.
You're not going to give me the room to like have this deep of a discussion with you of like, hey, I get stressed out when you come to me with money, and it would have been better if you just brought this up. Like, we couldn't have gotten to that resolution with the place that you were at Macy's or JCPenney, wherever the fuck you were at that moment. It also
didn't help that I had 30 minutes of analyzing data ahead of time.
Yes,
and then I call you trying to brief you on the same data, and you're just lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when you're like, well, hold on a second. And I'm like, no, don't hold on. You're like, oh, God damn it. Here we are again.
Yeah. Fuck. Yeah.
So context matters both ways. I mean,
I
didn't know that you could have been just sitting on your phone doing whatever mindlessly. And then all of a sudden now you have to like come up with these numbers that you can't see.
That I can't see. I can't make sense of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the lesson is maybe you should have just trusted me.
I mean,
no, I was calling you because I was briefing you for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted you to be knowledgeable about what's happening actively. And also, I mean, I guess it's not my money on the line. But going back to what started this whole thing when you were talking about how you feel responsible for, example, Shaylee and Ashley, who don't have a lot of money. And you don't want to cause a lot of financial burden on them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Whereas I don't necessarily share the sentiment.
Yeah.
To me, it's a one-time deal, and it's kind of their problem. And if I were in the similar situation where, let's say, Wyatt was getting married, and he's like, "Here's $150 bill, you figure it out," I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, for sure. It would be his wedding. It would be important to me to go figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the point when I said, let's go record this.
Yeah. I think another thing to add to like why my perspective is like worrying about the financial burden is because all of my family has to travel. Like every single one of them has to spend money to be at this wedding.
Yeah.
Like my bridal party, they have to travel, which whatever the cost of that is, and then also
finding anybody in your bridal party that doesn't. Oh, T doesn't have to travel.
T's the only one that doesn't have to travel, and so that's already a financial burden on its own. Yeah. In my perspective, the way that I'm like projecting that,
it definitely makes sense. It makes sense, and I think going along those same lines, none of my groomsmen have to travel besides Callan.
No,
and even then, his mom lives here, so it's.
But I think another thing that was kind of stressing me out was that this happened after you said that it was going to cost $300 for the bachelor party. And that stressed me. I was like, okay, so you want each of these people to be spending $500 on our wedding? That's ridiculous.
I did feel kind of bad about that, about the bachelor party, because I was just thinking about the logistics. Like for Dylan and me, or possibly even Callan, who are a little more established in our lives. Yeah. $350 isn't that big of a deal. Yeah. And, you know, for Wyatt, he's not quite established yet, but he has lower cost of living. So I'm like, okay, that just leaves my brothers, who ended up not being able to gamble anyway.
Yeah. But then it's that on top of the suit.
And then it's that on top of the suits.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it makes sense. And I think it boils down to because you care.
Yes.
You know, you don't want people to be struggling financially on our behalf.
Yes.
You kind of feel like you deserve the blame because it's your wedding.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. And like, I don't want to make a financial situation for anybody, you know? Yeah. Like, I don't want to make it any harder than what it already is for anybody.
I will say I'm kind of glad that the bachelor party ended up not being able to happen.
Yeah.
It is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Once we start getting up there with the clothing costs, the bachelor party,
yeah,
it just starts to add up.
Well, and if it was like for something where it's like, oh my God, we can only do this once. Like if you were going to Vegas and it was going to cost $300 per person, that would be a whole different story, because at least
we'd have to live
like,
in Vegas for that to be possible.
I don't know. They have some pretty cheap flights to Vegas sometimes. Like if you get a pretty good deal, you can get a flight for like $90, and sometimes casinos will even give you like a free room and shit. Like, dude, or cool. Make it discounted, because if you're staying in a casino, they're gonna get your money. Yeah. Like that's just how they look at it. They're like, the rooms are not what we make our money off of.
I'm not really a slot player. I'm more of a table games player. because of the higher risk and higher reward.
Yeah.
But if we were to go, we should ask my mom how to win at slots. She's really good at slot machines.
Maybe we should just go with your mom.
Yeah, maybe.
We should plan a trip
she's gone
together.
and ended up being able to pay for her whole trip and then some.
It would be kind of fun
Just
to go
from
with
slot
my
machines.
mom too. She's not necessarily a gambler, but she knows her way around Vegas.
Have our moms ever met?
Yes, they went to the venue with us. They were both there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would go well.
Yeah.
Fortunately for us, we don't have families that disagree.
Yeah, literally.
So
Yeah.
it'd be kind of fun. But back to the point.
I can't remember what the
Bachelor
point was.
party.
Oh,
Cost
yeah.
of the bachelor party.
Yeah.
It would be different
On
if it was
top
like
of-
Vegas, a once in a lifetime thing. Yeah. But it was fucking Wild Horse. It's 40 minutes away. We can do that at any point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not worth the cost for the memory of going to Wild Horse.
No, we're just going to go bowling because Eli
You'll have
lands.
just as good of a time playing arcade games at the bowling alley.
Yeah. I eat
If
that
not
shit
better.
up.
Like your $300, if everybody just pitched like $100 towards you being able to play whatever the fuck you want,
Yeah.
like it would be 1/3 the financial burden and like 70 million times more the fun.
Oh, yeah. And you get one of those like sticky hands from the
Oh
fucking,
my god.
from the,
You get all the
ticket
fucking
counter.
tickets.
oh, yeah.
You come home with one of
Just
the like
goofy ass
10,000
shit.
ticket
Yeah.
prizes,
Yeah. It's just these goofy little
trinkets.
Russian knockoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they are. I don't know if you've ever like read the label of one of those things, but it was in Russian.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was a little weird. I'm used
Little
to
sticky
like
hands.
Chinese copies, but
Yeah.
no, not the sticky hands. It was that flamingo
Oh
that we
yeah.
have up there, and there were a couple other things. Yeah, back in the days when I had more disposable income and no one to skip my ideas off of, I'd just go to the arcade and spend my days there. They had a Wii for like 30,000 tickets, and I think I
You're
got
like,
up to
"Ooh, what am I gonna get
25
it?"
or 26,000. I was like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna spend money."
So close. You're so close.
Well, somebody bought the Wii.
Oh, that's
I was pissed.
unfortunate.
We're getting off track again. The point of recording this podcast is that we were arguing, and I said, let's put it on the microphones because one of the directions you wanted to go with the podcast is recording arguments between couples.
Yeah. And having resolution and being
And
able to
having
like break
resolution.
it down to like what went wrong and
Yeah. And it's funny because in this podcast, we've identified the context that made it go wrong in the first place. So we kind of have already fixed it.
Mm-hmm.
A little.
For now.
For now. I'm sure we'll argue about this in 2 days.
I don't think it'll be
See,
that soon.
I want to point out one thing that I like about our dynamic is that we don't hate each other, and it's not a, oh my God, are you really bringing this up again? Can you just get the fuck over it?
We don't have one
We
of
don't
those
have
like one of the signs that are outside of like those plants that are like this many days since the last argument.
Oh yeah, we don't need that.
Yeah.
And like if we argue, we've had a couple of really vicious arguments, and there are plenty of times when in other situations where you think about something after the fact, you're like, oh, it would have been good to say that.
Mm-hmm.
You and I just say it.
Yeah, exactly.
We say, hey, you remember that argument we had 2 days ago? Well, I thought of something else.
Yeah, exactly.
And we try to bring it up in a constructive way rather than a destructive way.
Yeah, which is like not something that I'm used to doing. Like that's why I'm
me either.
marrying you.
I'm not used to doing it either. I'm used to just getting pissed off and be like, are you fucking serious? You're bringing this up again? Can you just get over it?
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
used to being on the receiving end of exactly that.
Yes.
So,
But
and it was not working.
You motivate me to not do that. I would much rather reach resolution than continue a
feels
conflict. Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah.
And another important thing is that we always remember that we're not attacking the person. We're attacking what they said or what they did,
Yeah.
but never the individual itself.
Yeah, I'm not frustrated with you. I'm frustrated with the situation that we're in. I'm
I think there
frustrated
was one of
out the
those-
tuxes.
One of those 40-year-old mom Facebook memes. It said, like, men only do 2 things wrong, the things they say and the things they do.
Oh my god.
It's funny.
Literally fucking everything.
Yeah. And so every time I say that phrase of I'm not mad at you, I'm mad at what you did or said,
Mm-hmm.
it feels similar of, oh, okay, so you're mad at me.
No.
But you are not the things you do. You are not the things
No.
you say.
And I think that that's such a good thing to point out because that helps reiterate that the love is not conditional on your action. Like, it's not conditional on you being 100% every single day.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
Because
that also
if
is not carte blanche to act like a fuckhead.
Well, no, but it's like having the room to have a shitty day and not have it be like, oh, what are you in a fucking mood about? You know, like,
Yeah.
just be like, oh, what's going on? You seem a little bit off today, type thing. Like,
yeah,
you just get a lot further being able to communicate about it and have a bad day and be able to kindly tell your significant other to fuck off sometimes when you need to, you know.
I think it's very important to be able to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just come back to it.
Yeah.
I hope that the rest of the wedding planning goes a little bit more smoothly, but I think that we'll just keep communicating through it and have a really fun day.
An argument or two.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But that's just how it is.
Yep.
We'll get through it. We'll be back with
We'll see you in 2 days.
Another argument podcast. Well, I think that's a good enough place to wrap it up. Thanks for being here, Derry.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Mental Odyssey is a Dream and Do podcast, produced and edited by yours truly. The music is owned by Chill Hop, and this song is Velocities by Sleepy Fish. Go check them out. Thanks for being here.